Here's a Ford Focus Mk1 with two blow-in headlights. The headlights are on in this shot, but they're not because both bulbs are gone. So we need to replace both of them, and we're going to have a look at doing that in this video. Here's a brief summary of the tools that I'm going to be using in this video. That is a small socket wrench with an extension bar, which you do need, and a 10mm hex socket head, a flashlight, a small mirror such as a makeup mirror that you can get around into tight corners, some disposable latex gloves with which to handle the new bulbs, and of course the new bulbs themselves. The bulbs that the Focus needs are H7s for the low beam and H1s for the main high beam. These are Philips Vision Plus, which are a sort of middle of the range bulb. I like them. They create a nice light, a slight improvement over the generic cheapies. Okay, let's get started. We'll open the bonnet up and have a look inside. Now, changing the bulbs on the Focus is a bit of a bastard of a job. If you have a look at some of the guides around on the internet, you'll find some crazy recommendations that tell you to do things like remove the battery, remove the front bumper off the car. You don't need to do anything so silly as all that. You may need to remove the headlight assemblies themselves. What I'm going to do in this case is both. I'm going to remove the left-hand side assembly, and I'm going to do the right-hand side in situ, so as to show you both ways of doing it. The reason that it's difficult is because there's very little room, particularly on the left-hand side, very little room to get your fingers in and access the quite tricky little metal clip that holds the bulb in, which you're going to have to action. You can remove the battery cover, which is easy enough, but it doesn't help very much. It's still very difficult to see it and very hard to get your fingers in there. The right hand side has more space, but it's still quite difficult, and you can't easily see what you're doing with the bulb itself. Alright, so we'll remove the left hand headlight assembly, which in itself is more difficult than it needs to be. There are 3 bolts to remove in this case. There's 2 on top, 1 in the middle, 1 on the outside. And then there is a 3rd bolt on the underside, which is quite difficult to see and to reach. So we'll remove these top 2 first. They're easy. And then once we've done that, we need to get our towel or something. And we lie down on the ground next to the, position your head next to the front wheel. And if you look up under the bumper, so as to look at the underside of the headlight unit itself, you can see this bolt, the one that's in the center of the frame right here. The bolt goes laterally relative to the car. Now, what I'm going to do is a little bit later, once we've removed the assembly, I will show you the position of this bolt from the top so that you can more accurately understand where exactly it's located. But in any case, you can reach a socket wrench up there and you can undo it, and you can tighten it back up again afterwards without needing to lift the car. So it is feasible. Once you've got all 3 bolts removed, the headlight still won't quite come out. It'll be loose, but you can't actually pull it out because the front plastic grille is in its way. So as to get that out of the way, you don't need to remove the grille completely, but you do need to unclip it and undo the single bolt closest to the headlight, which you will need the extension bar on your socket wrench for. You won't be able to reach a spanner down there. You just need to undo that bolt, and then you just basically flex the grille out of the way, and then there'll be enough room to remove the headlight assembly. With that, you can carefully pull the headlight out. Remember, it's still plugged in. You need to now just action the little tab on the side of the electrical connector and unplug it, disconnect it, and then you can go put the headlight assembly down somewhere where you can more easily work on it. Okay, I promised to show you where that underside bolt is located. And you can see here the L-shaped metal bracket through which the bolt goes. The bolt just goes through from the outside horizontally, as you can see here. Right, so here is our removed left-hand headlight assembly. This is the back of it. That is the indicator bulb. We don't need to worry about that in this case. And underneath this removable panel are all the other bulbs. So to remove this, we push down on this little metal clip, which is very easy, and then pull out and pull down, and the whole thing will come away. It has a rubber gasket around its outside edges. Just be careful that you don't lose that. And inside we can see the H7 low beam, the H1 high beam, and underneath the low beam is the little sidelight bulb. So we're going to focus on the low beam bulbs because they're the tricky ones. The black bit here is the holder for the lamp, which we need to pull out. And you can see here there is a metal spring clip which goes around and holds it in position. And on the outside it is retained in a clip. And what you need to do is push it in the correct direction relative to the clip so as to release it, and then it will hinge around so as allowing the bulb to be pulled loose. Now, this is all relatively easy once you've pulled the assembly out like this, but when you can't see any of this when it's still in the car, it's very difficult indeed. Now, even once that clip is loose, the cables which run to the bulb holder still pass through the clip, so you can't easily remove the entire thing completely freely. It's still sort of constrained in there. So as you remove the bulb, you need to be careful and just work the wires in conjunction with the clip so as to give yourself enough room. And anyway, there's the old bulb to be removed. So to do that, just pull it out, give it a bit of a wiggle. It may be a bit stuck, especially if the bulb's old and has been in there for a while. And just with this old bulb, I'll just show you how these H7 bulbs key into their sockets. If you look at the shape of it, you'll notice this sort of tab at the bottom, and that goes into this square-shaped bit at the bottom of the socket. This allows you to orient it, otherwise it's easy to end up putting it in upside down. This is how it correctly goes. Now it's time for the white latex gloves to come out. I do strongly suggest that you wear gloves like this because you do not want to get oil from your skin on the new bulbs, and you will probably end up touching it inadvertently. So this is a very good idea, otherwise you can end up blowing your bulbs much sooner than they otherwise should. I'm going to take out our new bulb, and if you're changing two, then leave the second one in its protective case. Don't leave it lying around for dust to accumulate on it. And then we can gently position it into the socket, making sure that it's the correct orientation relative to the headlight itself. And then with the most exaggerated care, you very gently place it into position. And the thing to avoid here is touching anything with the bulb itself. Even the slightest of scratches could be enough to weaken the bulb and ruin it. So as you push it into position, you want to keep it away from the walls of the light assembly. Don't let it touch anything. You can look through the other side, through the front of the headlight as well, so that you can see where it is more clearly. Just take your time, do it very carefully, and then once it's in position, hold it in place with your finger while you put the clip back on. Don't just let it go, because there's nothing really holding it into position until the clip is back in place. The clip is actually very easy to action. If you're having trouble, if it won't go back in, then probably the bulb is not correctly seated, so do not force it no matter what you do. And once the clip is in place, just check that the bulb is seated correctly and it's not loose, and then that is that bulb done. So then you can put the back panel of the headlight back on. The two tabs go in first, then you push it home, and then the metal clip comes around and snaps into position. So obviously replacing the headlight assembly is just a reversal of its removal. Put it into position, and I would suggest you connect the electrical plug at this point, and then put the keys in the ignition and test the headlights, turn them on. make sure that the bulb's working, make sure that you didn't damage it as you put it in, make sure that it wasn't something wrong with it as it was supplied to you, of course. Then we can set about replacing the bolts. Probably do the underside bolt first would be my recommendation. After that, do the two top bolts. And then don't forget to replace the bolt on the grill. I actually don't show it in the video because I forgot to shoot it. So yeah, don't forget that one. Don't do these bolts up too tight, by the way. They're self-tapping bolts, and they're mostly screwing down onto plastic washers, so they do not want too much torque on them. You can easily crack stuff, strip threads. Just be a bit careful. The headlights don't need much force to hold them in place. Right, so now that we've done that one, let's turn our attention to the right-hand side assembly. Then this one, as I said before, we will do in situ, just to show you that it is in fact possible. Obviously everything is much the same. You remove the back panel easily enough. Straight away you'll probably notice a few little problems because the coolant hoses and the headlight electrical wiring itself gets in the way. You can just gently push that stuff out of the way. It's flexible, shouldn't be a problem. And now is where our trusty mirror is going to come in handy, because without it you cannot really see the clip on the low beam headlight. So you position that as best suits you so that you can get some sort of angle of view on it. You might want to have your flashlight resting somewhere illuminating this because it might be maybe a bit dark. And then you get your hand in there and you action the clip as best you can. Just take your time, feel it. Nothing requires too much force in this whole job, so if you're having to apply lots of force, you're doing it wrong. Take your time, use the mirror, get it in the correct angle, and you should be good. Especially if you've done it as I did, having removed the other side, because you'll know what to do. And when you're ready to put the new bulb in, time for the white gloves again. Again, take your time, do it very, very carefully. You can look through the front of the headlight again. This will actually allow you to see where the bulb is when you can't easily see looking from behind, even with your mirror. Hold the bulb correctly in position once it is in position, and you will have to probably do this one-handed. Get the clip back into position. So once you're happy with how the bulb's seated, you can put the back panel in. This is probably one of the most tricky parts of the whole thing, actually, because you need to locate the two tabs, and they're very hard to see. You can sort of feel them if you're careful. Snap the retaining bar back into position, and then again test the bulb. Make sure it's working correctly. And you should at this point have two working headlights. So you're all done. You can close the bonnet. Check that you've not left anything sitting on top of the engine or in the engine bay before you close the bonnet. And then you're done. So I hope this was helpful for some people. You can of course do it either method. You can remove the headlight assembly, or you can just do them in situ, depending on how you feel, really, or maybe it depends on how small your fingers are. Anyways, lots of luck, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below.